we should do a stream about the good things about being a woman. Like, what is it? What are the things you like about being a woman? And one of the responses was, the best thing about being a woman is men. And I was kind of like, yeah, like I love men. I love having men in my life. They're great, but that's not what you'd think if you listened to Sadiq Khan. Sadiq Khan's Mate, which is his new campaign in London to get people to get men specifically to call out bad male behavior in each other, like in a kind of light-hearted fashion without it becoming a huge thing. You can just say mate. How do you say it? Give me your best mate. I don't know how to say it. Mate. This is not helping anyone. Like, transparently saying mate, like, even if it worked, right, getting men to stop saying inappropriate things to women, this is not actually the source of any woman's real problems. I think it's kind of annoying, right, to have remarks said about you. It's not great. I'm not saying that this never happens or that it's not uncomfortable, but really it's not on, I don't think it's on any woman's like top 10 list of problems in her life.
No, I think that there's a class thing going on here as well, because it tends, in the ad, it's all like, oh, blokes, innit? Blokes, all right, mate. It's not a bunch of guys in Oxford University going, mate, I don't think you should be speaking to that lady like that. I think that's completely inappropriate. They're not. It's always directed at working class guys. And I think there's a class snobbery there, but also he says something, Sadiq Khan, that, because that language can turn into physical aggression. I don't agree. The thing is, is just because men slag off women or say bad things about women doesn't mean that they're about to go out the next day and physically attack or, sexually abuse a woman. And that, I mean, I remember listening to Camille Paglia about this, and she said something really, she said there's always going to be a small percentage of men who are predators who do those things, those terrible physical things to men. Okay, they're not. This advert isn't going to change that. No amount of brainwashing young boys into thinking they're terrible is going to change that. No amount of Barbie movies or whatever it is going to change that fact. There's a small percentage of men who are psychopaths, okay, and that's just the way it is. And calling out men for just talking about stuff basically, I get annoyed about this, and I'm not even a man, so I can't imagine what men must be feeling, being bombarded with this narrative all the time.
I'm glad that you brought that up, because it's exactly what I wanted to get onto, which is, I think the idea of feminism covers a multitude of unrelated things and makes them seem like it calls them all patriarchy and says that they're all the same thing. When in fact, if it's looking at this tweet, which is what I was trying to find, highlighting the hypocrisy of, addressing everyday casual misogyny and not, when there are much worse crimes against women being committed in this country.
Of course.
And I think when you get to a certain social strata, the very lowest women in our society, their biggest problem is men. The women who really are being victimized by men, who are, being kidnapped, assaulted in every way, who are, being trapped, that it's not a problem for the bourgeois class, the middle class women, the women who are actually the feminists, who have the platform to speak about about air conditioning or whatever, who complain about wolf whistling. They don't actually face these kinds of problems that are the actual problems that feminism would be a good force to help with. Things like domestic abuse. And I'm not talking about getting into arguments. I mean, true, chronic domestic abuse situations. The women who have the least resources to get away from their, what's the word, victimizers, their abusers. All of this language sounds very feminist, but it is a reality for a lot of women who don't really have access to the luxuries that the feminists who get to talk on TV and write books have
Yeah, I know.
problems in her life.
There's there's a class thing going on there. I think they want something to make themselves feel like victims for one, when actually a
Yeah,
lot of them are in a far better situation than, say, a working class guy who is living in poverty and trying to support his family, or whatever, or a single guy who's just lonely, living alone, not got any access to work or money or anything like that. And then they're being lectured, these guys, by these women who have gone to top universities, live in lovely luxury flats in London, and write pieces for The Guardian. And the whole thing stinks, to be quite honest, because they're always looking down their noses. It's always the sort of, like in the Barbie movie, the builders. Or let's turn that into a thing. Because of course, if a builder whistles at you, that must mean that he's a rapist. What the hell? This is the mentality. Oh, I was so put out today. Someone whistled at me. It was
but
terrifying. It's
they
like, what
have
are
to
you
create a
talking
link
about?
between the problems they experience. I'm talking about the sort of middle class educated feminists. The problems
Mm,
they experience, they have to link those to what I'd call real problems, like the real
mm.
abuse of women, so that they can have a moan about all the things they've gone through today and the difficulties with their marriage and their kids. They can have a good old moan about that and write books about that and pretend that it's the same problem as
Well,
women who are really being
they're
victimized.
privileged, so they
Yeah.
want to find something that makes them can feel sorry for themselves. I mean, that was the Barbie movie. That whole speech that I wrote.
Yeah.
I wrote that about in my piece. The speech that woman gives about this sort of laundry list of how she's so put upon, and oh, everything I do is wrong, and I have to be a leader, but then I can't be a leader, and then I have to want this and I can't be that, and it's so hard. And she says it's literally impossible to be a woman. And I'm thinking, what are you even going on about? And it's obviously the woman who made the movie, who's living in LA, in Hollywood, who's probably living a lovely life. it, it's this is appealing to privileged women who want to feel sorry for themselves and have something to complain about, so that they can say that, oh, I'm living in this patriarchy, and it's I'm just put upon, when they're not put upon at all. And actually they don't care a damn about sort of working class women or men. Actually, I mean, the grooming gang thing was a complete example. None of these posh feminists gave a damn about these working class girls, in these northern towns. So it's just about them. And it is, they all the cliches about women being self-absorbed, neurotic, constantly complaining, making everything about them. They fulfill all those stereotypes. You know, that was Barbie movie in a nutshell for me. It was just like, you are fulfilling all the stereotypes that women are supposed to be.